Kia ora, good evening. A severe earthquake rattled the region at 6:13 p.m. last night, followed by two intense shakes quickly after. The initial 6.2 magnitude quake struck 140 kilometres west of Tuatapere at a depth of 10 kilometres with a severe intensity. The initial quake was felt as far away as Palmerston North, according to the GeoNet website. 13 minutes later, another quake struck with a lesser impact, reaching 4.4 magnitude, followed an hour later by another, reaching 4.7 magnitude. Invercargill City Council Chief Executive Richard King is defending the council's policy of appointing councillors to directorships of council-owned companies. City Councillor Ian Pottinger has called for a review of the policy, but Mr King is confident the current appointment system works and has done for over 2 decades.
Well, the policy has been in place ever since our companies were established. We have a mixed directorship. Some of them are councillors, some of them are outside directors. But in each situation the councillors who are on the board have some commercial acumen. And that model has existed, I think we set up EIL around 1993. And so that model has worked very successfully for the last 21 years.
You don't feel that those places could be taken from a professional and perhaps lift that knowledge base within the directorship? Well,
I have seen examples where both models have worked successfully, and I've seen models where they haven't worked successfully. And I think the critical thing is the personalities that are involved. Having a councillor as a commercial director, they have an eye on both camps. They eye the commercial side of it, they also eye the political side of it. So, for example, electricity pricing is a very sensitive issue because people have generally no other power source. So they have two sides. One, you want a commercial return, but you don't want that return to be so high as to be detrimental to people's health and wellbeing.
Council critics, and there's always critics of the council, but they say this is like a perk for councillors. You stay around for a while and you can expect a directorship or two even. What are your thoughts? What do you say to those people?
Well, we have this model working for 21 years. It's been working. It's been extremely successful. That's all I can say to the critics. What's wrong with the model? It has worked.
Ian Pottinger, of course, council is calling for some sort of review like Dunedin did, and Dunedin has opted not to go with that model, and directors are not selected from the council. Why not have a review and silence those critics?
Well, Dunedin has gone from one extreme to the other. When their companies were set up, they most definitely had councillors on board. For their reason, they've chosen to go the other way. Time will tell, but our model works.
Are you confident then with these 5 councillors being removed from this process regarding the uncalled shares in Holdco, are you confident that the right decision will be made? Will the right, I know KPMG are looking into Otagonet and that viability of those purchases, but are you confident that there is that democratic representation around that table?
Yes, I am. First of all, if it goes, there's a number of scenarios here, but for it to get to council, first of all, Electricity Invercargill has to recommend it to the holding company as a future dividend stream. In other words, they've got to look at it and they've got to say, despite the risks, we believe this is a great investment and you should do it for these reasons. That then goes on to the holding company. We have 3 councillor directors on the holding company. If it gets past that stage, then the holding company then recommends to the full council or those remaining that this is a good investment for the city. So you've got a clear steer coming from 2 companies.
Mayor Tim Shadbolt's on the airport board.
Yes.
Is he still allowed to vote? It is under the umbrella of Holdco, isn't it? He's allowed to participate in this decision-making process.
Yes, he is. Absolutely.
That's a legal view.
Yes.
There's been no significant change in the southern real estate market, although Southland's median house price rose by $8,000 compared to August, with a modest rise in Invercargill and a 7% fall in Gore. Southland sales volumes rose 7% compared to August, with a 225% rise in Gore sales and a 14% decrease in Invercargill City. Nationally, 5,911 dwellings were sold in September. That's down 12% on a year ago. The median house price nationally has gained $20,000 compared to September last year. Helen O'Sullivan of REI NZ says the Southland house market remains quiet, with no real change in the number of buyers and listings in reasonable supply. She says nationally the real estate market appears to have moved on from the election, with increased activity in the last 10 days of September. Cheaper cheese, seasonal fruit and vegetables offset rising meat prices last month.
Food price index rose 0.8% in September, weakening from August as fruit and vegetable prices fell 6.5%, with vegetables falling by 11%, led by lettuce, tomatoes, cucumber and capsicum. Cheese prices fell 3.5% and pasta dropped 3.4%. Meat, poultry and fish prices rose 1.3%, with pork climbing 6.5% and lamb up almost 5% at 4.9%. On an annual basis, fruit and veggie prices fell 3.3% in September compared to the same month last year. Grocery foods fell 1.6%, led by bread, as supermarkets ran discount offers, according to Statistics New Zealand.
Stay with us after the break. It's Money Week. We catch up with a local budget advisor, plus creating a Kermadec sanctuary. Welcome back. This week is Money Week and the theme is Get Your Money Fighting Fit, advice endorsed by Invercargill and District's Budget Advisory Services, Sonia Donnelly.
I think all of us are guilty of spending money on things that we don't realise, and if that's the thing that's, there's lots of tools that you can use to find out where your money's going, and also through that you can make some changes from there to make your life a wee bit better, hopefully.
I think yesterday some stats were released where 1 in 4 has about $1,000 saved as New Zealanders, and 1 in 10 doesn't have any savings, and so that's very much living in the now, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I thought there would have been more than probably 1 in 10 that didn't have any savings, especially the people that we deal with would be way more. In fact, a lot of the people we deal with wouldn't even have, definitely wouldn't have $1,000 saved, definitely not. And I think whether you class it as savings for something special or just for day-to-day living, people need to get to a point, if they can, and I know it's not easy, but get to a point where they do have a bit of a buffer for those things that don't come up on a week-to-week basis. You've got to have your rent, your power, and money set aside for your food. They're your 3 basics. But there's also going to be things that they need to pay for every now and again, but that doesn't crop up every week, like your car registration, or if you've got to get a new tyre, doctor visits, school camp, things like that. We've always got to put money aside or be aware that those costs are going to crop up.
Money Week, a good week then to stop and take a bit of time and think about where you're heading and savings plans and things.
Absolutely, think about what is this where I want to be heading, what can I do, and we're here to help you. We're not here to tell you what you can and can't do by any means. We're just here to get you to a point where you can be financially confident and independent, hopefully. And it's not going to happen overnight, but if you don't make any changes, nothing changes.
Preserving the environment around the Kermadec Islands is the subject of a talk in the city tonight by Forest and Bird Kermadec Ocean Sanctuary campaigner Anton van Helden. Mr van Helden's campaigning for the environmental protection of the area around the islands, which are 1,500 kilometres northeast of New Zealand.
This area of ocean contains contains unique features that don't occur anywhere else within the New Zealand marine environment, including we've got this the Kermadec Arc, which is a series of submarine volcanoes. In fact, the islands themselves form little pinpricks of those volcanoes just emerging above the surface. But also a lot of obviously underwater seamounts, including very, very complex deep ocean environments, including the Kermadec Trench, which dives to over 10,000 metres deep.
What progress have you made, and what ideally are you looking for? Some sort of complete sanctuary for the whole area?
We're looking, to create full protection for the entire EEZ around the Kermadec Islands in the north of New Zealand. The point is, at the moment, only 0.48% or thereabouts, certainly less than half of 1% of New Zealand's marine environment is in full protection. Maybe coming close to 10% for our territorial sea, which is that little band of 12 nautical miles around the islands and the islands of New Zealand. That really is, trivial compared to our marine environment, which is one of the, maybe the 5th largest EEZ in the world, and yet we protect almost none of it.
What are your concerns? What do you think could happen there that could be so destructive that you think it should be legislated and protected?
Well, I think first and foremost it's about protecting special areas, and there's certainly special areas there, and as I say, like the Trench. It's also the only area within New Zealand where you have tropical, subtropical and temperate species coming together. So it's the only place in New Zealand that we can see that. Unlike places like the Ross Sea, where people go, oh, the last ocean, which is controlled by all sorts of agreements from different nations. This is within our waters. This is the Kermadec area is our waters to protect. But currently, as I said, none of the EEZ is protected. So at the same time as that, the government is happy to open up large areas of our EEZ to oil and mineral exploration.
Brand new Minister of Conservation, are you thinking of, or will you get the chance to have that conversation with her?
We're certainly hoping to have a conversation with Maggie Barry in a couple of weeks.
And that Kermadec talk gets underway at 7:30 this evening at the Federated Farmers Building on 4th Street. The Invercargill City Council has closed off a section of Tweed Street for the next 5 weeks while roadworks are underway. The latest work marks the final stage of the Tweed Street rehabilitation. 2 northern lanes of Tweed Street between Clyde Street roundabout and Nith Street have been closed. Traffic's been diverted via Clyde Street to I Street, then Collins Street and back to Tweed. At the end of this stage of the roadworks, the 2 northern lanes of Tweed Street will have been reconstructed from Ellis Road to Clyde Street. Included in the improvements are new cycle lanes and improved crossing points at intersections. This section of Tweed Street should be reopened to vehicles again on mid-November. And that's it from the news desk this Tuesday. Sport follows the weather next from the news team. Good night.